all things Astros with your hosts, sports writer Jeff Balke and Astros broadcaster and former third baseman Jeff Blum. Now, here's Balke and Blummer.
What's up, Astros fans? Welcome to episode 81 of the Believe in Astros podcast on the Believe Podcasting Network. I'm Jeff Balke alongside my partner Jeff Blum in lovely Denver after a wild series in Anaheim. Blummer, how are you this morning?
I'm tired, bro. I mean, dude, this travel's crazy, man. Coming out of All-Star break was a little insane because of those games in Anaheim, and then we have Sunday night baseball. We get in at 2:33 a.m. here in Denver, and yeah, that's why I've got my morning voice on. But, dude, it is smoking hot here in Denver.
Is it really?
It's like
I was going to
degrees.
ask you that. That is awful.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, it's
we're
hot
so much
here
closer
too,
to the sun.
Right. Well, yeah, no, I will say this, Blum, you're not wrong. People don't realize that when you're in the mountains, the sunburn level is high in the mountains, even if it's cool, because you are a lot closer. And like, we went to a wedding in Wyoming one time and we were sitting outside. I thought I was roasting. Like it was like at 7,000 feet, and it was cool, except my whole body felt like it was on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Whew, that's weird. Denver's at 100. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to a warming planet, I guess.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, am not. My injuries are self-inflicted. You can see.
I was going to say, dude, I saw your Instagram. Yeah, road rash.
Dude, I made a turn on my bike. I bent a little too low to the ground, and my pedal caught the ground. Then everything turned, and I went whoop right over the front. Now here's I'm fine. I had a nice goose egg on my arm yesterday, but I'm fine. Here's the thing, though. Another cyclist rode right past me after it happened and didn't even ask if I was okay. I was like, bro, like
modern society's broken.
Unbelievable. He looked like he was about 100 too. Like he looked like he just rode. I was like, what? Not even, are you okay? Nothing?
I can't believe Jim McInville went flying by you on a bike.
Damn.
That's messed up.
Zing. Oh my God, Blummer, that is good. So at least I will say,
I just hope it's not a blown spootinator.
It is not a blown spootinator.
I almost spit up my coffee.
That is the key. It is not a blown spootinator, which would be much, much worse. It's just a little minor, just some scratch. I will say this though: when you have an accident on a bike, when you're my age, because I'm 50. When you have an accident at my age, you end up with bruises in places that you don't even understand why you have bruises there.
And like it takes them 2 weeks to go away.
I know. And I'm like, why do I have a bruise on the inside of my knee? Like, where did that come from? Like, I don't have any idea, but it's fine. I'm living with it.
Like, it's your body prioritized the pain, and it just completely forgets about the inside of your knee. And then you wake up the next day and you're like, good Lord, what happened?
I know. And the thing is, it looks way worse than it actually is. I don't even notice it. And then all of a sudden you're like, why is there a giant blue spot on my leg? It's just so weird. But hey, we're surviving here in Houston, even though it's going to be 102 again today. Good Lord. I'm surprised in Denver though, Blummer, but I guess the Rockies Stadium is open air too, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a hailstorm up here that covered the field. So, I mean, it fluctuates up here. Tomorrow it's going to be 88 and it'll probably be gorgeous again. I mean, it's gorgeous outside, but the heat gets you, but tomorrow will be nice.
It'll be nice tonight. It'll be nice tonight though, I would imagine. It gets cool real fast in Denver, which is awesome. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, of course, YouTube. Give us a follow on Twitter and now on Instagram and soon on Threads. But to make the move over there, you can find me at Jeff Balke, Blummer at Blummer27 all over the place, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for giving us reviews on Apple and 5 stars. Obviously, send your questions and comments. Got a good one today from a regular listener, Sam Enneman, who's on Twitter. Shout out to Sam. And I actually have kind of the answers to these, Blummer, but I'm curious to get your a shout out on these. And that is, how did the Astros, he's from North Carolina, and he wants to know how it is that the Astros came to have two affiliates in North Carolina. They have the High A Asheville Tourists and the Fayetteville Woodpeckers. And he's apparently from there, and he was wondering, do you know much about how the inner workings of, like, because I really don't know how they buy teams and all that. Do you know much about that?
I don't know as much as I need to know, but I do know that there's not that this guy's not in the organization anymore, but he's phenomenal. His name was Dan O'Neill, and we called him Show Neil because he was such a good dude and did so many good things. But I think I really want to say he helped facilitate both those moves to Asheville and Fayetteville. And I'm not sure for the reason why, other than the fact that they're two really great cities that can handle a minor league city. But a lot of they do put in a lot of research into, can this city handle it? Would this be a good spot? And obviously they found two great cities to go out there and play. And I've heard nothing but great things from players who have come through there and played in Asheville and Fayetteville and absolutely love it. So credit to both those cities, and being capable of handling the organizations is great.
Hey, and talk about good weather in Asheville. My goodness.
Oh, my gosh. Dude, I would move to North Carolina and South Carolina in a heartbeat.
I know.
Two good secret spots, man.
Oh, it's so beautiful out there. I did do a little bit of research. It looks like in Fayetteville, the Astros, they were one of two Carolina League expansion teams when the Astros took them over. But Asheville's fascinating. I don't know if you've seen anything about them, but that franchise has been around since 1897.
Damn.
And it's been minor league affiliates for a bunch of teams. And the Astros have been a single A affiliate for the Astros on 3 separate occasions. The first time in 1967, which really shocked the hell out of me. Then from 82 to 93, they were the single A affiliate. And then they just started again in 2021. So Asheville's been around a long time. As soon as I saw that, I thought, I love Asheville. I've been there a few times. I love it. Next time I'm there, I'm going to a ball game.
Yeah.
I bet you.
I've heard the
stadiums
to see a ball game. Yeah.
Oh, they've got to be, because Asheville is a cool little town with, by the way, a very fastly evolving food scene that is outstanding. Like really good. Last time my wife and I were there a couple of years ago, basically ate ourselves sick. So
I was going to, you know what? That's a whole nother podcast series, would be the food in America in some of these cities, because I'm with you. Some of these sneaky small cities and even the big cities are unbelievable as far as food's concerned.
Absolutely. Next year, my wife and I are going to be in Milwaukee and in Detroit, in a couple different places. And so I've been hitting people up and saying, hey, where should we go eat while we're at these couple, different places randomly? And man, I've been getting a boatload of suggestions. So that's because that's the only
restaurants. Between restaurants and craft brewery across America, woo, we're winning in those departments.
Dude, I'm going to tell you something else too. Let's be honest. Most of the time when I'm going to another city, the first thing I'm looking for is where I'm going to eat. I mean, let's just be clear. I'm immediately looking for the places to eat. All right. So the Astros Angels series was nuts. It felt a bit like that Rangers series a couple of weeks ago in Arlington. Interesting. They're in Anaheim, outside of LA. Dallas is in Arlington, outside of Dallas. They both had these wild series. I mean,
they're not in the cities they claim to be.
No, of course not. The heartbreaker, of course, was Saturday when the Angels won in 10 innings, which, by the way, it almost felt inevitable. Like the with all the different comebacks and all this stuff. And then when they went into the 10th inning, I was like, you had that feeling. Then, of course, in the Sunday game, Kyle Tucker, with both his bat and his glove, I mean, saved that game at the end of that series, and they won the series. But what did you take away from this series? I mean, it was crazy. I mean, very entertaining. But it was a very crazy series. What were your takeaways?
Well, could you imagine sitting there watching that as a GM? I mean, if you're the Astros GM, Dana Brown, you're kind of looking at this going, man, our offense is dynamic. Wait until we get, Altuve and Alvarez back, and we'll do all kinds of damage, because I think they averaged 9 runs a game in that series.
Yep.
Yet they only took 2 out of 3, and that doesn't make any sense with the pitching staff that you have, because they started JP France against Shohei Ohtani. You say, hey, we beat Shohei. We're in the clear.
Right.
We've got Framber Valdez, Christian Javier going. We're going to be in great shape to win this series and sweep it, go into Colorado. And all of a sudden you have that hiccup on Saturday. And the hiccup Saturday is very concerning, because everybody you brought out of the bullpen is leading the American League in appearances, and they've had some issues keeping runners off the board. And I think that's where you're kind of going, could we go get another starter, or should we go get another bullpen arm? And it's not to the fault of, there's 4 guys, I think. I wonder if I can name them. Brian Abreu, Hector Neris, Ryan Presley. Gosh, there's one more mixed in there that had just been Phil Maton, have just been getting absolutely annihilated as far as appearances. Yes. And we can sit there and say, well, they should be performing better. They should be doing that. They should be doing that. But they've done as much as they can for me. And I'm going to give them some grace and say they're going to have those blow-ups, because they've been used so frequently. Everybody's going to say, well, starters going to need to get deeper in the game. I'm going to give you an alternate idea. We need Rafael Montero to be Rafael Montero that we've seen in the past. We need Ryan Stanek to throw strikes. If those 2 guys pitch to what they did last year, or even some semblance of it, those other 4 guys would benefit.
I think that is completely spot on. You know, if you look at the numbers, Phil Maton, the only guy who's pitched more innings out of the bullpen this year is Brian Abreu. Like, that just tells you, I mean,
those are your high leverage guys. Yeah.
Yes, those are your high leverage guys. So you're right. You do have to wonder. I mean, Dana Brown has said they're going to be looking for pitching. I think that's the right move. We were all worried about hitting. Obviously, we've seen some turnaround in that, some, let's call it progression to the mean, really, for guys like Jose Abreu, for Alex Bregman. Kyle Tucker's been outstanding. And then you're getting contributions from Corey Julks and Yainer Diaz and these other guys as well, consistently, which is great. And now Chas McCormick, who just won AL Player of the Week, he's just rolling. He's just rolling right now and has solidified that center field spot.
Yeah.
So I think it is the thing you have to start looking at. It's like, okay, the bullpen is worn out. Your starting pitching is struggling because, look, Christian Javier and Hunter Brown have never thrown this many innings, right? So I saw a report from, I think it was Bob Nightingale, saying that the Astros had inquired about Marcus Stroman and Cody Bellinger. Weirdly, from the Cubs.
Well, hey, if Jake Marisnik can play for the Dodgers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I saw a little story about that the other day. I was like, oh, come on.
Oh, God,
but Dana Brown has
LA
said the
Riders.
pitching is a priority, both starters and relievers now.
Yep.
And so, to me, it seems like kind of all bets are off, and the Astros are going to be looking to upgrade in those positions. The question is, how are they going to get it done? Relievers obviously are relievers are easier to acquire, right? You can definitely find good relief arms, and also the Astros have Ronel Blanco, who could end up in the bullpen once they get Jose Urquidy back.
Good
but
call.
it is, I think it's definitely, and they're going to have to look at, because if they can't get Montero and Stanek, I mean, Stanek, what is his walks per 9 inning? Or like 5 walks per 9 innings or something crazy like that.
It's
what
not
are
good.
they going to do if they can't get those guys on track? It's trouble.
It is. It's Barney Rubble. It's big time where you got to fix those guys. A little Ocean's 11 reference right there. But
you're in Barney. You're in Barney. That's right.
Yeah, you are. You need to get those guys right, and I don't know how to do that because Stanek's got the stuff. It's just a matter of throwing strikes. If he's in the zone, he's good, and he will be good. Montero, I'm not sure what's going on, other than the fact that his changeup is just not the same pitch that it was last season. But that's where you have that dilemma. Do we pick up the reliever to compensate for that? Do we move Ronel Blanco into that situation and maybe he can be a guy that helps them figure it out? But the starting rotation, you're hoping to get a Jose Urquidy back, and you're not looking. Stroman would be nice because he's been a wipeout this entire season, and he's pitching for a contract, so he might be a little more costly as far as prospects and personnel that you're trying to move to get him for a rental. You might be able to, sign him to a contract too. I don't know what the idea is moving forward with him, but there's guys like Lucas Giolito, Michael Lorenzen in Detroit, some guys that could go out there and just eat up innings and be competitive and show you flashes of brilliance every once in a while to keep you in some games that might be a little more cost effective in going out there and getting. And I think that's where Dana Brown's going to have to be very creative, because you're going to be asked the question, do you want to give up a Drew Gilbert, a couple of these outfielders in the minor leagues? Or how do you get creative enough to make these trades? And I'm not sure the Astros have enough to be able to do that, to be honest with you.
Right. And do they dangle someone like Spencer Aronetti, or does he become or do they bring him up? There
might have been thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about that. And then you've got guys like, I don't think they're trading Drew Gilbert. They're not trading Drew Gilbert unless it winds up in a frontline number one starter.
That's where I'm with you. That's why I say it's going to be tough.
Yeah, because even Jacob Melton, I don't think they're moving him either, even though they have a plethora of outfielders. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. And so you have to look at that and start thinking, okay, well then who does get moved? It's going to be complicated. I don't want to be Dana Brown at this point, but the truth is, you can't stop right now. If the Astros truly believe they're going to contend, and I think we all agree that they have the talent to do that if they can get everybody on the right page, the Rangers keep winning. They won on a walk-off wild pitch last night.
Man? It's unbelievable.
I mean, there's those times when teams it's just like everything, the ball bounces their way, right? I mean, good Lord. A wild pitch against Tampa Bay, 3-2 win, and in the bottom of the ninth. Come on. Just ridiculous. Let's talk about Chas, though. AL Player of the Week. He batted, this is from the Astros yesterday in their press release. He batted .636 with 7 runs, 3 home runs, 5 RBI, 3 walks, and a 2188 OPS during that week, including a 1455 slugging percentage, which is just nuts. He had his first 4-run game. And became the first Astros player to record 4 runs in a game since Jose Altuve last year. And just what a phenomenal week for him. And I think just continuing to solidify his place in the middle of the outfield. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. And it's funny that it's AL Player of the Week, because I think it was AL Player of the Weekend. all those numbers, all those numbers you rattled off. All those numbers you rattled off, I think, were put on the Los Angeles Angels. So credit to them for giving it up.
I think you're right. And he even made like an incredible catch. Like I think it's funny with Chas. I just kind of have it's taken a while to sort of settle that center field argument since George Springer left.
Yeah.
But I feel like this finally, because look, if you can get a decent power bat out of center field with a guy who is still very good defensively, I mean, that's just a cherry on the top of the sundae, really.
Chas is
a big deal.
Chas is a great center fielder. I think he's turned himself into a very good center fielder. I know that he's got sometimes some focus issues, if you want to say that. But I mean, that's part of the personality, and part of what endears himself to us is because he's one of us that kind of, the mind wanders a little bit, but then he goes out there and makes a great play. But, with him, how about, let me ask you this, flip the script a little bit, is with Chas McCormick kind of playing himself into that center field position and saying he can play a very competent defensive center field. I think he has a better arm than Jake Myers. He's obviously putting together better offensive numbers than Jake Myers. Does that make Jake Myers a piece that you can put into a package and say, we've got big league talent with control, take him, and what will you give us in return?
Oh, well, I think there's no question. If you're looking at the big league roster, the 2 guys that just fly off the mat, off the page at you are him and Corey Julks. I mean, I don't want to move Corey Julks. Corey Julks is one of my favorite players, but the 2 of those guys are like people who can say, well, they're under control. They have real talent. I think Jake Myers, it's the interesting thing with him, and you mentioned being under team control, which is critical, especially for a team that's trying to unload some pieces right now. I think the interesting thing about Jake Myers is that he does have legit center field potential. He reminds me a little bit of Miles Straw in that the Astros gave up Miles Straw and they got Phil Maton and Yainer Diaz back, right? Could Jake Myers be converted into a leverage reliever, right? If you don't, if you're not going to put him in a package for a starter, maybe your starter ends up, you have to, use your prospects. Could that be a guy that brings you back a leverage reliever from a team that is overstocked with them, or a team that's maybe going to sell? That I can see as a real possibility, because he has the ability to walk onto a team and be a solid defensive center fielder, who can fit into the bottom of a lineup.
Yeah, that's why I find it very intriguing.
I do too. And look, let's be honest, Chaz's success couldn't have come at a better time in that regard, because it does now sort of say, okay, well, if we need, the Astros have an overabundance of outfielders. We all know this.
Yeah.
So maybe that is the play. And maybe that does free them up to then go after a starter and a reliever. It's a good point. I'm going to be real curious to see what happens, because to me, Chaz is, you got to play him. You got to play him every day, just like you got to play Yainer every day. But we know that too.
Yep.
These are all things we know, but what did you say? I think, how'd you put it?
We know this. And we
right.
know this, man.
We know this, man. That's it. By the way, a minute ago when you mentioned that Ocean's 11 that we're in Barney, that is Cockney rhyming slang. And I know this because my friend Ben is from England. Shout out to my buddy Ben in Austin and his wife Kaylee, who we're going on a trip with to Yellowstone in a couple of weeks. Nice. Ben and I told him, I said, listen, if I wanted to learn another language, could you teach me Cockney rhyming slang? Just because I thought that would be fun to learn. Right.
That would be hilarious.
He's told me a few. I can't remember them off the top of my head. When I'm in Yellowstone with him, though, I'm going to be like, all right, hit me with a few of these. And so I can start using them, because it started in British prisons. How about that for you? They used it as code. I believe
that's what I was just going to say. I wonder if it was a way to communicate without, certain people understanding what you were talking about.
That's exactly right. Because when they say I'm in Barney, rubble, trouble. Yeah, that's kind of how. Yeah, but I'm going to learn some more about that, because I find that stuff really interesting. Cockney rhyming slang. All right, let's talk about the injury updates we've got. I don't know what the latest you have heard, but I did hear that Jordan has been hitting again. He's been taking BP. It sounds like he's probably going for a rehab stint pretty soon here. Jose Urquidy is already at Sugarland. He's about to have his second start. They think he's going to have at least 2 or 3 more starts before he returns, probably in a couple of weeks. What have you? I mean, I know Payne is going to be back tonight. He had like a cramp the other night or something, and they sort of held him out for precaution.
He's fine.
What about Fromber though?
I think it was the same thing. I think it was just a little bit of a cramp or a little bit of a what was that in my hamstring kind of thing. So I don't think that's anything major. And I don't know what happened in Anaheim, and I don't know what's happening across the entire Major League Baseball. Yeah. And I actually I know Phil Nevin pretty well, and I kind of sat down and talked to him a little bit, because his team's under duress with all the injuries that they've had. And I just kind of said, I'm like, what the hell's going on, man? The entire league is a mess. And he's like, you can't blame a hitting coach for hitting too much. You can't blame a pitching coach for pitching too much. You can't blame, your trainers, because you don't see the trainer until you're hurt. So you're like, what are these strength and conditioning guys doing? What is going on? Because it's insane to me to see how many people are dropping. But then we go into Anaheim and we're cramping, and it was warm. It wasn't crazy hot in Anaheim, but you've got guys cramping in the same game. I can't speculate on anything, because I'm not in the dugout or, what are they not taking their electrolytes, or their old school salt tablets, but
The salt tablets.
yeah, you know
I
what?
remember
That's
those
what
from
they
high
gave us
school.
as kids. It was like, here, take salt tablets. You'll be fine. Suck it
Exactly.
up.
No, I remember that when I was a kid
Yeah.
playing
You're like,
soccer.
dude,
They're like, here's some
yeah.
salt tablets. Some salt
Yeah. Somehow they
tablets.
put the ocean into a tablet and you're like, what the God's name was that? And, but they'll be fine. But going into Colorado presents its own issues. It's going to be warm. Your muscles are dehydrated at this level anyway. So I would imagine they're going to try and find a way to compete against that. But the injuries with Alvarez I heard it was he legit had like a head cold or something. I don't know what was going on, but it was like just a legit, like, I don't feel good. He's still been working out, but he just hasn't played any games. And who wants to play a game at 110 degrees when you're not feeling well? I get that. The other thing with Jordan, the dude could probably get 2 games of at bats and be ready to go. He's a freak.
We saw that. We saw that in the spring training, right? He came back and just went straight in without any. And he was like, and I remember Dusty Baker was like, well, he needs a little time for spring training. Yeah, or he doesn't.
Or we want him in the lineup. Let's go.
It's like counterpoint. He doesn't need anything.
No,
right?
He's amazing. Altuve, much in the same way. I think that he's going to be ready probably sooner than we thought too, which is great news. He's a miracle healer. He's been taking swings, really ground balls, running. And the one that kind of, there's no confirmation on this again, but I'm hearing that Brantley is much closer than we thought too, which creates all kinds of unique problems that are going to be fantastic for Dusty to try and deal with, because your offense with Michael Brantley, Altuve, Alvarez, and all of these other guys that are producing right now with the Tuckers, the Bregmans, the Abreu's, all of a sudden you've got 6 or 7 guys, and then throw Yiner in there. You're going, holy crap, we've got an offense right here. So I think that's where Dana, going back to our previous conversation, is going to say, and Chas McCormick in there too, all of a sudden you've got 8 guys in your lineup that are producing. And I think that's where Dana kind of looks at the roster and says, yeah, pitching is paramount right now.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that about Brantley. I saw a little note about something the other day about him hitting off a tee and blah, blah, blah. And, I kind of read a little bit into that. And when I talked to a couple of friends of mine who in Dallas, who are kind of who have some friends within both organizations, they said, Brantley, don't write him off just yet. Like, that I think
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Just don't write him off just yet.
But don't write him off.
Yeah, exactly. So we are obviously in Denver now with the Rockies. The Rockies have been miserable this year. What do you see in the Rockies? I mean, like, what do you think the Astros are going to have to do in this series? Like, where are their weaknesses that they can exploit? I mean, obviously you can score a lot of runs in Denver if you're hitting the ball. But what are you seeing, like, in just looking at these teams? What do you see the Astros are going to need to do?
They're going to need to not do what the Yankees did when they went through Colorado, because Colorado took 2 out of 3 from New York, and they actually turned into slugfests. And if it turns into a slugfest, I think it benefits the Astros, but at the same time, their pitching should be able to suppress what the Rockies are doing. And we already know that they've played this series earlier in Minute Maid Park, where they did extremely well and lost 2 games. But the run differential, that the Astros only scored 10 runs in those 2 games, only 5 runs a game, whatever. But at the same time, kept them to 5 runs. And I think that's going to be the big thing, is just keep the ball in the ballpark, force them to get, 2-3 base hits to score runs, and you'll be fine. But the way the rotation lines up is going to be interesting.
It sure is, because we got, I guess, Hunter tonight, right? Hunter Brown tonight. And then that would bring up Ty. I guess I'd bring up JP France next. I'm going to do it.
No. Belak. I think Belak might be the guy tomorrow.
Oh, Belak. You're right. It'll be Belak, then France. That is or do they throw Blanco? I'm trying to remember how many days it's been, because France pitched on Saturday. No, it's Friday.
He pitched on Friday.
So he'll have enough time. He'll have enough time to work, because that'd put him back on Thursday. So that would seemingly be enough time. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, because they don't have. I mean, I'm going to say they don't have their best pitchers up there, but right now we don't really know who their best pitchers are.
Well, you can say they have their 4 or 5 up there, or their 3-4, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But I mean, Hunter Brown,
that's true.
Hunter Brown with that extended amount of time off should be ready and fresh. And for a guy, I mean, it's the interesting thing for me with Hunter Brown is his curveball has been so good this year. How is it going to react at this altitude? That's the issue, because the
Yeah,
fuel is going to work
Plummer,
great.
Blummer, let me ask you about that. When you played in Denver, like
Oh
what?
man,
Like I know that like the curve, like breaking pitches, they flatten out because of that thin air. You don't get as much break on it. What is it like to play in that altitude? Never mind the just trying to breathe.
I was going to say, yeah, you go up a flight of stairs here, and all of a sudden you're sucking wind. So that's
Exactly.
something to get used to. But at the same time, it's really kind of funny because I just remember facing the late Darryl Kyle when he was I faced him with the Colorado Rockies, and all I had ever
Hmm.
heard is curveball, curveball, curveball. And I mean, I could legit hear his curveball coming in because he spun that thing so damn hard. It would just go,
Really? Wow.
and you could hear this thing bite as it was coming in. But when he
What?
was in
Wow.
Colorado, it just didn't have the tilt that he wanted, so you could react to it a little bit better. He had to throw it at a different angle to get the break on it, but at the same time, it was a pitch that he could rely on at sea level, but not necessarily at this
Hmm.
altitude. And obviously, you could see the numbers jump. That's where I kind of noticed the issue a little bit with some of those guys. And you can go back in the history of the franchise and see guys that have
Yeah.
moved up here, and with the altitude, losing maybe the sharpness on some of their pitches, and then the altitude of the ball just flying, it really hurt them. And I played pre-humidor, so I don't know how much this humidor actually
Right.
affects the baseball as far as spin, but I know it kind of it alters the ball flight a little bit. But at the same
Hmm.
time, I think it's the crispness on the pitches. And think about being a pitcher when you know that you're not going to get the break that you normally get. It could get in your head a little bit and say, I'm going to shake off that pitch and go to something else.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting you say that. Like plus the Coors Field is a big field, right? I mean
Yeah.
the field itself is just large. I mean, there's a lot of room in the outfield. It was built for hitting, no
Hmm.
question. Which is why there are guys that are still, questioned about the Hall of Fame because they played most of their careers in Denver, which is stupid because you still have to hit the ball.
Yeah.
Um,
Arenado's doing
but
okay.
yeah, exactly. But I do think that it is going to be interesting to see how that alters their pitching mentality. It shouldn't affect, obviously, it's not going to affect fastballs. It shouldn't affect changeups, for
Mm-mm.
example. Should
Yep.
still be able to pull those over. But breaking pitches could be an issue. So it'll be interesting to see how some of these guys, if they lean on fastballs and sinkers and changeups over curveballs and
Well, I
especially
think
knuckle
that's where,
curves. Like,
yeah, I think that's where Belak could be successful because his changeup has
yeah,
been his best pitch the entire year.
yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. So I saw something the other day. I brought it up when I was on doing the radio show yesterday on KUHF here in Houston about how the Major League Baseball has seen a fairly substantive ratings bump this season,
Hmm.
and in TV, both national TV as well as local broadcast TV. And some have speculated that it's because of the rule changes. Also, there have been higher ticket sales this year in Major League Baseball, which has been interesting. The Astros are looking to top 3 million, I think, this year, which is just
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Credit to the
And of course,
fans.
the crowds at Minute Maid have just been spectacular. Like every game, there's like 37,
Absolutely.
40,000 people, which is incredible. But I'm curious what your thoughts. A lot of people said, well, the rule changes, which I think certainly can affect it if the games are shorter. I also wonder if the fact that there are just more teams that are competitive because we have an expanded playoff. So there's a lot more teams who are like, we're still in this. We're not going to, because a lot of times by this point in the season, there's like 8 or 10 teams who are just kind of like, that's it, we're good.
Yep.
And you're just kind of packing it in. This year, really, you've only got 3 or 4, maybe 5 teams that are like that. What do you think?
I think it has a little bit to do with the time of game, so it's easier to tune in, watch the game, and then I know that I can go to a game and get back to bed at a decent hour instead of exhausting
Mm-hmm.
until 11 o'clock at night. There was a lot of concern. If I drive 45 minutes and I watch a 2.5 hour game, does that justify my hour and a half driving time? And I think people are
Mm-hmm.
kind of giving into the fact that they're going to be entertained for 2.5 hours. And there's a little more finite finish to these games when you say, okay, 2.5 hours, I'm going to get a 9-inning game in and I can get out. So I appreciate the fact that these fans are showing up for that and the quality of baseball. There's going to be people that argue maybe the quality isn't as good because you're facing teams like the Rockies, the A's, even the Angels to an extent, and even though they have Shohei Ohtani. But, it's a little more entertaining because the ball is being put in play. You're not, you can look down at your phone for 10 seconds and you got to look right back up and see the action in the game. So that's sped up. So you're watching a little more intently. I do think that having this many teams involved is good, but at the same time, the American League and National League Central are two of the worst divisions I've ever seen. And right. But to your point, everybody's in contention. The Indians can lose a 4-game series and still be 2 games out. The Tigers, I think, are 4 or 5 games out in the American League Central. So,
unreal.
Sub 500 records are winning. Going back to our trade idea, there's still, there's more buyers than sellers because of the situation. But I'm going to give credit to the players too. I think the games are exciting because the athletes are so much better these days, and they're a lot more fun to watch.
Also, one point that was brought up was the fact that now every team plays every other team, which I think is think that's great. Good. I think that's a great development in baseball because especially a city like Houston, we have a lot of people who are not from Houston who live here, right? Yeah. There are lots of transient people who've moved here for work and like yourself, for example, who might want to go see a team where they're from, maybe the team they root for. And it's not necessarily just Boston or New York. So I think that's a big help. Personally, I think that's actually been a really big help too. So I'm glad to see it. Baseball's been fun this year. Let's be honest. I mean, there's been a lot of fun games, a lot of crazy moments, and that's great. I mean, all the ratings were down for the All-Star game, but good Lord, man. All-Star week is just tough. Although, did you see the story that says that they may bring in an old timers home run contest?
Yeah,
man, bring that on. I want to see Ken Griffey Jr. and Big Poppy out there. Like, call up Baggy. Call up Baggy. I bet you he can still hit a few dingers.
Oh yeah, that's what he wants is another shoulder surgery.
Speaking of requiring shoulder surgeries, I saw that Julia posted that video of y'all jumping around in the booth.
Oh damn!
When Bregman hit that home run. But the best part about that video, the best, absolute most spectacular part of the video is Brian McTaggert's face in the background at the very end. Tags is just the best. I mean, he is the absolute best because here's the thing. He looks beleaguered. Right? He looks like he's been doing this for 20 years and he looks like a guy who's just seen it all, just worn down. But he's actually that's his personality. He's very chill. He's just a very chill dude. One of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet in your entire life. And just great. Like, I've sat next to him in the press box. He's just a good dude. But to see that face of him just turning and looking and just that smirk, like classic Tag smirk.
And I don't know.
Amazing.
He is. He is one of the best. I've known him obviously for a good 20 years now, and he has always been a phenomenal human. A great conversation. Obviously, is diehard Houston everything, having been a Cougar in his life.
Yes.
Yeah. So I appreciate the hell out of him, and he still does a pretty good job of trying to stay as unbiased as he possibly can. But at the same time, there were 2 looks in that look from him. It was the holy shit, you got to be kidding me. Tucker just did that, after the Bregman home run. So there's the astonishment in his look like, are you kidding me with these guys? And then it was, are you kidding me with you, Julia and TK over there jumping around like clowns cheering for this team? And we're like, hey, man, that's who we are. That is who we are.
I saw that. And it's funny, too, because Matt Thomas from the Rockets announcer and from 790, he pointed out McTaggert's face, and I had seen it, too. And I know Matt a little bit. Matt's a good dude. And I just, when he pointed out, I was like, this is so spectacular. It's just
everything about it.
I felt like you just want to zoom right into that, just his face. He is looking at y'all like, come on, what are y'all doing? Come on, this is so good. He was looking at y'all like, come on, man, hold it, act like you've been there.
Right? Yeah, we can't help it, man. Hey, truth be told, I mean, I don't know how many drinks Julia had. I know me and TK had at least 4 or 5 pops. We were like, yeah, so there was a little added liquid enthusiasm in there.
Yes. Now I will tell you, I would have been full of that, except guess what? My Xfinity decided not to provide me with it had some issues at that. So I was going to watch the game later. I DVR every game. And so I was watching something with my wife, and I thought I'll catch up. It's a late game, so I'll catch up seventh inning, and I'll start watching. So I switch over I think it was the bottom of the 7th to watch, and something's wrong. I'm not getting anything. I'm like, what? And I'm like, okay, I've got it on the DVR. As soon as it's done, I will go back and I will rewatch. So the game ends, and I'm like, okay. I had been listening to it a little bit. I on my MLB app. I was listening to Robert Ford and Steve Sparks. That's kind of listening to that, watching it on Twitter, whatever. I go to watch it. Guess what? My DVR did not record it. So Xfinity and I have a little problem right now. And we have a little bit of a problem. That's all I'm going to say. They're normally very good. What I did wasn't able to rewatch that, though. There was some. Let's just say there was some anger in the Balke household that night.
Yeah, I'm gonna go silent right here because certain sponsorships that I enjoy.
Yeah, well,
but I understand your pain.
It happens sometimes. I'm not saying they're terrible. I wouldn't be with them if they were terrible.
Timing is everything.
Xfinity, but I just need them to get it together when it comes to the Astros because I can't do. Because I was like, are you kidding me? I'm gonna have to scour the internet to find all these plays.
Mm-hmm.
Not a happy moment. Now, honestly, though, I didn't want to. It's more fun listening to you and TK and Julia than it is listening to whoever they roll out for these national broadcasts, which are always unequivocally terrible. I did like your. I sent you the other night where the ejecto mitt. That was pretty good. Where the guy tried to make that catch and it just came flying out of his mitt, and you referred to it as an ejecto mitt.
I appreciate. Dude, my computer's dying. I'm looking for plugs. There's no plugs in this hotel, so bear with me. But at the same time, I'm going to have to turn my light off. But, dude, yeah, I was watching it. I watched the play in real time, and I was kind of like, wow, that was interesting. And then we went to slow-mo, and it legit looked like it just went in and then came flying out. And I was like, damn, dude, there's some, mouse in there that did not want the baseball in the glove and, shot it out of there. So I just – at some point, I mean, I don't know, there should be better words, but at the same time, ejecto mitt was the first thing that came to mind.
Ejecto mitt sounded perfect. I was like, look, man, here's the thing. When it comes to these things in the moment, it ain't easy, right? I mean, it is not easy to come up with something interesting to say, let alone something, a quip of said nature to make that work. So, no, man, that's not easy. That's a tough gig. I dare anyone to take on a gig like that. I've always thought the thing I thought I would never in a million years would I ever bother with was play-by-play. I just can't imagine having that kind of responsibility on my shoulders. Now, TV, but radio, never.
No,
never. There's just zero chance because it's just I can't imagine the responsibility, the weight of that, calling a game. Color commentary, I thought I could probably, but it's hard, man. I think of that kid that the kid that called that he was trying to do the ESPN style broadcast on his college station. He was like, and boom goes the dynamite. I feel like that's exactly what would happen to me. I'd be in the middle of something. I'd be like, and boom goes the dynamite. I'd be like, who is this clown? So yeah, kudos.
No,
it's hard to do.
Play-by-play guys are impressive, and I mean, I work with one of the best in the game, and he is so phenomenally prepared that it's altered the way I prepare for games because I know he's going to be more prepared than I am, so I can say things off the cuff. I said something I'll do this all the time. Where I'm sitting there watching this game, I'm like, dadgum. I go, it feels like Altuve's gotten 7 hits in the last 3 days. And he'll be like, well, as a matter of fact, he's 4 for his last 9. I'm like, or 7 for his last 10. I'm like, all right, thanks, TK. Or I feel like in his last 10 he's been crushing it on the road trip. He's like, well, he's hitting 572. I'm like, thanks, Todd. He's always got everything to back up my, harebrained ideas. Either and he won't blow me
Or
up. Either he'll politely say you're wrong, or he'll just say you're exactly right. And here's the numbers to back it up. So, he's great.
That is wild. The people that have those that has that instant recall too.
Oh,
that's
he's
and by
really
the way,
good at that.
That's preparation. That is not like I have a brain. You and I are both like this. We have the brains that store like useless garbage, right? That's why we remember quotes from movies and TV shows and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just it's a nature of how we work, and I get that. But there's a difference between remembering that stuff and then being able to yank it out in context in the moment. That's just pure preparation. That's just pure planning. And how much work does he put in like before a series? He's got to be hours worth.
Oh, plenty. And he's doing off-season stuff, but it was funny. We had dinner yesterday together, and he was like, I was doing some research today. And I'm like, dear God, it's an off day, TK, take a break. And, that's just how he works. And he dives into numbers and really gets into the nitty-gritty of it. And as much information is provided to us, he goes to that next level and is always looking for something. And he's just he's the guy that will look up something and go, huh, that's interesting. And then he goes down that wormhole where he finds a bunch of other stuff, which is fantastic.
That is super cool. That's a kudos to him for being able to have the patience to do that. Cause it can be, you can get a little glassy eyed staring at stuff. I get
especially
it.
Especially after 100 games, you can just kind of go, here's the pitch. This is what the Astros have done. This is that, and just get really monotonous. But he continues to grind and dig. Yeah,
that's impressive. All right, well, Blummer, Rockies this week. Any thoughts going into this series besides what we talked about? Let me ask you this: since we're talking about food, where are you going to eat?
Oh, I went to, where did I go yesterday? I went to Oscar Blues or something like that. I went to a brewery yesterday. We had a really great spicy chicken sandwich. And I had, I think it was an East Coast beer, but I was drinking it here. It was called Lush Puppy. And it was amazing. Nice. Juicy IPA. It was phenomenal. So I know for a fact that there is a place on Blake Street that I hit every time we come in here to Colorado. And there is one reason why. I think it's called Tap 14, and they have Pliny the Elder on tap. And for those beer connoisseurs out there,
even I know what that is.
Yeah, Pliny is the Shohei Ohtani of beers, or the Yordan Alvarez of beers. That freaky, hard to find, phenomenal tasting beer, and to have it on tap. I'll sit down and have 2 of those and sleep very well tomorrow or tonight after I walk back from the ballpark.
I'll give you one recommendation while you're there. Steuben's. Steuben's Grill. It's out on, I forget the name of the street. It's not far from the ballpark, actually. It's like an old school, like mechanic shop / gas station that's turned into a cool little restaurant. And they have really good lobster rolls. Really good lobster rolls last time I was there. It's been around for a long time. Last time I was there was 5 years ago. And I went in there and it was just so delicious. Yeah. So that's a pretty good.
Denver,
it's cool.
If you're traveling to visit ballpark, great ballpark, great city, and everything's really convenient around the ballpark. It's nice.
Yeah, the area, and it's real close to downtown, to the Capitol and stuff. You can you can walk from the Capitol to the ballpark and back. It's not crazy. So yeah, it's really pleasant, and normally the weather's pretty nice. And of course, you're close to the Rocky Mountains. You can always head up to Estes Park and visit the Shining Hotel. Which is always a fun little. It's funny. One of the couples that we're traveling with, their daughters are twins, and I'm like, can we just go to Estes Park and get a picture of the twins inside the Shining?
Oh my gosh!
Because they're like 11 years old.
Yeah,
I'm like, come on, let's do it. The little funky Stanley Kubrick shot of the twins standing in front of the elevator. I think they vetoed it, but anyway, someday. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll be back next week with a fresh pod brought to you by Bet Online. Huge thanks to everybody who's been listening and viewing all over the world. Hey, I saw Great Britain. We were up we're in the top 100. Great Britain. Top of the market. Maybe we'll learn some more Cockney rhyming slang for next time.
That would be better.
and then we can use that on them. We very thankful for all of you guys for liking and subscribing and commenting. Keep it up. Have a great week, everybody, and enjoy the series against the Rockies. Fingers crossed. Let's win. Let's go 3-0 in this one. As always, go Astros.